Hi, I'm Macy.
And I'm Missy.
We're best friends
and business partners. And each week, we're going to bring you a quote that inspires us, and we're going to talk about it.
Join us as we break down our favorite impactful messages for leadership and share how you can apply them to lead with confidence and purpose.
Get ready for a fun and authentic journey into leadership, life, and everything in between.
Well, hey, bestie.
Hey, bestie.
It was so good seeing you face to face recently.
I love it when we can actually be in a room together and not just virtual long distance.
I know. I agree. I love it so much.
We had such a great time in Texas with our cowboy boots. Those
boots are made for walking.
They are. And we had such a tremendous group of sales professionals. And it made me think of the impact that they have, the impact that they're making without even realizing it.
I know. I think in sales, sometimes it tends to be very transactional, right? But what I loved about training this group in particular, they were so excited to learn how to be more relational, not just with their external customers, because obviously that's important, but with their internal customers or coworkers.
Yeah, I loved it when one of the guys shared with us that since attending the training with us last year, how he saw such a shift in his numbers because he tweaked one little thing that we shared.
I know. And it's something that we share often, right? He shared with us how asking better connection questions, that he was able to build a level of trust in such a way that he even got a few customer referrals from that.
I know it. And here's the thing. We know that people buy from people they trust. Right. So by shifting from that transactional mindset to a relational one, he not only increased his bottom line, but he also created a loyal customer base.
Yes.
And that saw they saw him as more than a salesperson. They saw him as a trusted advisor and probably a friend.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes people get stuck with what they're doing, not just in sales, right? I mean, everybody at some point gets stuck. And that's why creativity and innovation really is so important, regardless of what industry you're in.
Absolutely. And I think that is a perfect segue into this week's quote. And here it is. The best way to predict the future is to create it.
Ooh,
by Peter Drucker. It's a good one.
That is good. And even in the story we shared, right? I mean, it wasn't this crazy out of the box, innovative idea, but the sales guy, he was able to create his future because he was innovative in the way that he started asking questions, right? And as I was preparing for this episode, I got to thinking that good leadership is really about innovation, isn't it? I mean, It is about spotting opportunities and moving towards them, even when you don't have all the answers, don't you think?
Oh, yes, of course, I agree. And I want to go ahead and let's introduce our guest as we dive in, because he's just been listening to us banter. And I think based on what he loves about leadership, he's going to be able to give us some nuggets for our listeners about this.
Yeah, I think so too. Doug, welcome. We are excited to have you here.
We are.
I just want to share with our listeners a little bit about you, Doug. You're the head of customer success and innovation. Ding, ding, ding. That's why this is perfect for you. Head of customer success and innovation at Freedom Code Compliance. You are a leader in Florida's private plan review and virtual inspection, a Marine Corps veteran. Thank you so much for your service. We appreciate all that you've done for our country.
Absolutely.
You are Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, a seasoned leader. Your expertise spans multiple industries: IT, healthcare, construction. Your innovative approach and dedication to process improvement drives success across everything that you do. You are a former candidate, and I believe soon to be candidate for a local political office, because you are, and I know you well, and I know the boards that you serve on, you are deeply committed to serving your community. Doug lives in Stuart, Florida with his wife, Mary, their two sons, Grayson and Colton, and they have a baby on the way.
Oh, Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, we were so excited about it. And thank you so much for the kind introduction. Very much been looking forward to joining the show, knowing that we're talking about innovation, and appreciated everything else that you guys have shared so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super value to the listeners.
Yeah, we're excited. So before we get too deep, too fast, Doug, right? Sure. Let's start here. Let's start and ask you, what would you say about this week's quote, that the best way to predict the future is to create it?
100% agree. I mean, you look at exactly where we're at just in the last 100 years of a society, right? We went from just trying to attach cattle to, a hoe to get agriculture going. And now we have smartphones, we have AI, and all of those things didn't exist until someone had an idea and then went to go and
that's good. That's good. I'm so glad I live in this time of innovation and not with the plow and the cow.
You got that right. Yeah. Can you imagine living in Florida without AC? I mean, that was only 100 years ago.
Just as an aside, Doug, I don't know that you know about this about Noelle, and I know I'm going to digress, but I just have to mention, and I think, Missy, you know about this, although we weren't friends then. When I first moved to Florida, Noelle and I actually looked at buying a farm. We were going to buy a farm property in Palm City. We had toured it many times. We almost bought it. And then God said, not the plan I have for you, my daughter. So we did not buy the farm. But could you imagine knowing me?
You guys.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
Did you ever see me living and working on a farm?
Never, ever in a million years.
I know. So funny. I know I'm digressing, but we're talking about
Noelle kicking the chickens kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, literally. You're like getting them out of the way.
All right, sorry. All right.
No, you're good. That's funny.
Well, I wanted to ask you, Doug, when you think about innovation and you think about leaders being innovators by seeing opportunities and moving forward, how do they do that without having all the answers?
I think that you take the answers that you can get and you move forward step by step, right? You learn a little, you do a little. You learn a little, you do a little. I think a big proponent of that, though, is also just being able to be consultative in nature, seeking the experts that have come before you, right?
You
look at QI phone charging, right? Where you just put your phone down and it just starts charging without having to connect anything. That was a female engineer, if memory serves correctly, that no one believed in her idea at all. So she ended up piecing up each of the engineering steps and finding the experts in each of their fields and compiling all of their knowledge along with her own innovation is what created the ability for phones to literally just charge without having to connect to anything, right? So we are literally moving electricity through air using vibration.
Wow.
So just an example of innovation that never existed before, but we took the knowledge we had, we built upon it, and now we have something entirely new.
Yeah. I mean, Missy, we talk about all the time, right, that some of the greatest inventions have come from innovation. And sometimes it comes from innovation that's failed.
Yeah,
right?
It's mistakes.
Right. Like what I know you often bring this up.
I do, because I think so many times people see mistakes as fatal, right? That any mistakes they make are going to take them backwards, when oftentimes those mistakes will take us forward. So you've got like Velcro, right? Like the man who invented Velcro he thought of the idea because of burrs in his dog's fur. Right? You've got the microwave oven. Somebody was trying to make advancements on the vacuum cleaner. You've got Post-it notes, and they were trying to do something creative with adhesive. Like, you can see it over and over and over in history that mistakes oftentimes lead to innovation.
Yeah. And I think what the problem is, like, people want to live a predictable life, right? Because why do we want to live a predictable life? Because it's easier, right? We know that it's easier to know how something is going to turn out.
Yeah, it's that comfort zone.
Yeah,
it's that comfort
rather
zone.
than taking the risk and not knowing with what you're going to do is even going to work. So, Doug, I'm curious, with challenges that you have faced, when you've tried to be that innovator, because that is, if I had to put you in a category, which we don't like boxing people in, but you are definitely an innovator. What have you done to overcome the fear of taking the risk to be an innovator in the first place?
That's a good question, Mayce.
Take smaller risks.
Take smaller risks?
Yeah. So I find it like a muscle, right? So when you look at a ladder if you have smaller steps and you can just step up small, you're going to get to the top much faster. If you try and take these giant leaps, your lift to get the achievement is that much more difficult.
Wow.
Right. And so if you are able to, one, treat everything like an experiment, two, take your experiment and bring it down to something incredibly small and just get your confirmation on that one thing, you can now move forward to the next or consider what your next step is.
Wow. Okay. So to piggyback on that then, how do you decide where to focus your energy when you're trying to build that future that you want, right? I mean, we know the world comes at us fast, and sometimes depending on personality types, I'll admit that I do this, you have those squirrel type moments, right? Where you're like, let me try this. And then something else comes along and you're like, let me try this. Some people call it shiny object syndrome. So I guess the real question is, how do you balance it? Like ideas coming in and then what you actually spend your time, your money, your energy on.
I think it's two components, right? And I think this is incredibly specific to people's expertise and perspectives, right? So if you're a salesperson, you are going to think about this from a sales perspective. You're going to innovate on your messaging. You're going to innovate on your marketing components around that. But when it comes to just an entrepreneurial approach overall, I think you've really got to focus on first driving revenue and then controlling operational efficiency, right? So those two components, right? Because you can't grow your business without revenue. Right. And then you can't really sustain. I'd say that the true innovation after revenue is generated and your sales is set comes in the operational side. It's implementing AI. It's figuring out from a process angle, here are all of my 100 steps. Can I take this down to 70 steps for the whole process? And that's where I'm pulling back time, right? And so oftentimes in identifying a wasteful process or steps that are wasteful in a process, those will be the red flags, if you will, that you can find innovation in.
Like to shorten, you're saying use innovation to shorten or to close the gap. So correct. For example, you just said if something has 100 steps to it, really saying, okay, well, what can I do better or differently to really make this only 70 steps or 50 steps?
Make it more efficient.
You got it. Yeah.
Because I think people get overwhelmed, right? We know that people get overwhelmed with all the steps, which is what really holds people back from taking that first step because they're afraid of all the other steps that they're going to have to take and they don't have the answers to take those steps. Okay, then another thought I had was, how do you balance the need to act now with long-term vision required to create the future? Because you have to, I mean, most leaders, they are highly visionary, right? They've got their eye on the big picture. But we also know that strategy comes into play. So how do you make sure that you're taking action now on the things that you need to now, but also keep working towards the goals without getting caught in that squirrel shiny object that Missy was just talking about?
That I often get stuck in.
Yes.
Me too. And I think that's a component of innovation, right? I make sure to chunk out time in my week where I turn everything off and I am specifically dedicated to the discovery of new tools.
Ooh.
Right? Because we are moving too fast technologically for humans to keep up. So every system we implement, and this is going to sound negative and I don't mean it to be, but every system we implement becomes outdated the next day, given the speed that AI moves almost.
Wow.
Right. So
that's shocking. I've never thought about it like that way, Doug.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So as an example, there's a software called clay.com. And imagine it like a Google sheet, and each cell you can implement AI in. So if I put in your email address, I could have it automatically pull the domain from the email. Then I can have it automatically go to your website and pull your mission statement. Then I can have it go to LinkedIn and automatically pull off your employees. That used to be something that I would have to set up each column. 3 days ago, a thing called Persona AI came out that literally has an AI that builds all of the columns and gathers your leads automatically.
Wow.
So we're just in an age to where education is becoming incredibly important. And as long as you're utilizing AI with some of what you're doing, you should be able to get some of your time back to put that into your schedule.
Wow.
How do you find these things, Doug? Like, how do you find this clay or persona? Like, I think most people, at least right now, are familiar with Chat GPT, right? But it almost sounds like that's so outdated compared to these other things that you're talking about?
I won't say it's outdated. If anything, it's definitely in the top 3 tools to use. It's one of the key components that it's advancing the field currently.
Because it's probably within some of these other programs, don't you think? They are
the back end model could be the basis of what these other companies are building their essentially fine-tuned models on top of. So yes, that's very true. There are, let me do this, Macy. I will provide some links afterwards, but if you just search AI directory on GitHub, you can find hundreds of lists of all of these.
Yeah, if you want to give us some links, we'll put them in the show notes. That might be helpful.
Very helpful.
Probably people listening that are like, I don't even know where to start, present company included.
Yeah. Well, so I have a question. You talked about how you block out time every day to really experiment with these new tools. Do you have any other habits or systems or processes that you use to help you stay focused on your ideas and really implement them for the future, but also deal with the challenges of the day-to-day?
So, and this somewhat links up to what you just asked, and I do want to mention one other thing on that last question of kind of the balance between long-term vision and creating the future. I think that it's a capacity question. So if I know that 30 hours in my week is dedicated to working in my business, where am I going to take my time to work on my business? So maybe it's the weekend because I know my customers are not calling me, right? So that's really what I would say is the balance is not it's a component of dedication, right? It's not just going to happen because your business will take you over if you don't actually control it. And so leading into like habits, systems, and processes that help me stay focused. Just I would say your general stuff, right? Your actual calendar-based apps to manage your tasks. One of the things that we've really implemented is Monday.com. And so we manage a lot of our automations through our workflows inside of that. And so as we gain the understanding of what our actual process should look like, we are then creating automations in a board that end up taking our work off of us. And so one of the things that we've done as a business is ensure that in between every hire, we are improving our operations by 2x. Right. So we are literally making sure that their work is being automated by AI or some form of systematic operations that increases our ability to do work without having to put a person in that seat. Right. So that's
is that scary though? Like, is this going to work us all out of a job?
RAC is not working so great right now. So I apologize. JP Morgan's CEO about a week ago recently said that he believes that humans in the future will work about 2.5 to 3 hours a day.
Wow.
Okay.
So I know. And then you've got further questions. And I don't want to get into the political side of this, but if all of a sudden we only have to work 3 hours a day, is there an argument then for some form of, does AI just pay us? Like, how does our actual capitalistic system work when you've got that happening? So I think to your point that you said, Missy, earlier, I'd rather be alive now than back then.
Yeah.
We are in such an amazing time, right? Like an article just came out from the World Economic Forum that talked about how the amount of estimated AI chips that they're developing require about 10 times the rate of energy consumption that an average Google search would, right? So if you search ChatGPT versus Google, the energy cost on that alone is about 10 times. Now, if you multiply that by what NVIDIA is going to produce hardware-wise with AI, we are at a major energy shortage across the entire world. So now we're looking at small nuclear reactors to catch up to that. You've seen Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and one Apple all recently put out RFPs requesting nuclear quotes, right? So again, as we find innovation in one space, we're going to then recognize another problem, right? So Tesla couldn't make their car without solving the battery problem. Right. And so I think sorry, I know I'm kind of wrapping all around here.
No, that's okay.
No, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It is fascinating. I just wonder, Doug, like, and you may not have an answer for this. I think you will. Like, what does this look like in leadership, though? Like, if you're going into organizations that are not at all familiar with AI, this sounds like it could be really overwhelming for someone to like get started with. How do I put together a workflow? Or, some people are just the, startup entrepreneurs and they wouldn't even know where to begin fixing all of these problems using AI. So I'm just wondering how this all works in leadership, do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of straightforward. The first step is the awareness of your current state, right? You're going to define
Love
and
that.
measure what it is that you're doing. And that will give you the steps to understand, okay, this is my actual process that I'm now documenting. And from there, you look at the process and say, well, I don't know if AI can work here. Let me go learn something about it, right? So a side project I've been working on that I actually haven't shared, I've built a webinar called AI Ready. And so if you go to aimodelbuilding.com, you can sign up for a class. It's a free 60-minute webinar that I go through breaking down where we got to, so where AI came from, where we're at now in terms of the evolution, and then also the tools that are out on the market, right? I think that once you analyze your first steps in knowing that, and then just very small awareness of these tools, you're going to find that it's very simple to implement.
Well, we are definitely going to put that link in the show notes, and we are going to attend that. I think it's something that we're going to.
Yeah, we're very interested in all of this. I mean, I don't know if either one of you have ever seen Napoleon Dynamite, the movie, but the brother sings "I Love Technology," and I always go around singing that, like when something new comes out, because it's fascinating to me. I love it. I really.
Well, I think it could save so much time.
Yes,
and that's what leaders need to do is compress their time.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a question, kind of a follow-up, Macy, on what you said about leaders. But Doug, how can leaders inspire their teams to take ownership of creating their future instead of waiting for direction? Because Macy and I have worked with companies that people are sometimes just sitting around waiting for someone else to go first. So what are your thoughts about that?
First, you got to look inside yourself. Are you being the leader that you want to see in the leaders you're trying to grow?
Yes. But check up from the neck up.
Understanding, I think, our team's purpose, understanding my purpose, and then relating that to the values and mission of our business, allow me to have a great conversation with our team, because it's not just about us, it's also about them. So we're ensuring in those conversations that, hey, we are building this with you. We are not here trying to get all these ideas to replace you. That's the component around the 2 to 3x, right? Because oftentimes that's the fear of the team. It's, I don't want technology to replace me. Right. We've been blessed enough to build our business now in this time. So we can adjust for that and really focus on just scaling a team of 10 to 15 people to get where we want to go. But in that conversation, as we bring them on, we're evaluating their strengths, we're evaluating their personality, and then we are going ahead and saying, what are your goals in life? And how is our company mission aligned with what you're trying to achieve in life? And how can we provide you the resources to get there outside of just finances?
It always comes back to connection, doesn't it, Mayce?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think you make such a good point. Like, what can we do for you here? But what do you want outside of these walls? Because you do have a life. And as owners, as leaders, we need to support what people want outside of just work. What do they want outside of their life? I love that. So good.
And then bringing them into the conversation is the last piece, right? Yeah. So in our office, we're sitting there, and even if it's the person who's brand new, hey, this is how our system works now. This is what we're thinking about changing. You've never seen this before. What are your thoughts? Because you've never seen this before. That will create more innovative moments and experiences and ideas than the team that's been there for 10 years doing the same thing. Yes. Right. That fresh perspective is always key.
Yeah. And that's something Missy and I just had a conversation with one of the groups that we train. We said, we're outsiders looking in. Let us know the problem. Let us look at it from a totally different side of the beach ball. And maybe we'll come up with a solution, because we don't know it. We don't know the current system, and we may be looking at it from a fresh perspective. So I love that. I think that you have given our listeners a lot to think about. I think that you've given them a lot to chew on. I'm excited to put the links in the show notes for them to hear. So I think this is a great time to share with our listeners. If you only take one thing away from this podcast, let it be this. The future doesn't have to be something that just happens to us. It's something we can create through not only our actions, but maybe the actions of AI, right?
Yes.
By taking intentional steps, embracing new opportunities, and being proactive, you absolutely hold the power to create the vision that you have for your future, one choice at a time.
Yes, that step-by-step Doug talked about, Mayce. And we always have to remember that the perfect moment doesn't exist. The best time to act is now. The ability to predict what lies ahead is created by the choices we make today, right? Whether it's developing relationships or setting bold vision or taking a first step toward a long-term dream. That by embracing that with a proactive mindset, you're not only going to influence your future, but you'll inspire others to do the same. And ultimately, that's the path to fulfilling, impactful, to a future that's within your control. It all begins with the courage to create it.
Yeah, I love that. So good. And for our listeners, we've got a special gift.
Yes, we do.
Want you to define the vision for your future. So we have come up with a simple worksheet to help you clarify your vision. You'll be able to grab that in the show notes or email us at connect@impactfulmessages.com. So Doug, we really cannot thank you enough for taking us on this journey of innovation today. So a couple of things, if our leaders and listeners want to stay connected with you, how can they do that? How can they find you?
And so LinkedIn's definitely the best way. You can search Douglas Mustapick and that'll pop right up and the photo will look pretty similar to this.
Okay, and we're going to put that in the show notes. And remind again what that AI webinar website is that you're offering.
I will send that link over. It's with AImodelbuilding.com.
Okay.
And that is a 45 to 60-minute webinar to really just give you the foundational understanding of what AI is, how data works with it, and then how you can use it right away.
Well, thank you for sharing it. I'm excited to go and watch that.
Yeah,
so, Doug, as we wrap up today, we always ask our guests this question. What is your favorite leadership quote?
So, in the context of this discussion, I'll go with Zuckerberg's "Move fast and break things." Innovation is one of those things you just got to try. You won't have all the answers, and you just need to move fast, try it, get your learning lesson, and improve.
I've never heard that one. Move fast and break things. I love it.
I feel like, Missy, that one's right up your alley.
I love it.
I'd be too worried about breaking things, right? Like I like everything to be nice and neat. I don't want anything to be broken. Well, for our listeners, we want to know if you have a favorite leadership quote. You can let us know that, and we may spotlight it on a future episode. And we'll be back next week with another quote and more leadership insights. And Missy, you know what we're going to do?
I do. We're going to talk about it. Yes.
All right. Bye, Doug. Bye, bestie.
Thank y'all.
Bye. We want to thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, please show us some love by clicking the 3 dots to download the podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating on your podcast app and talk about it with other leaders to help them find the show from any of the major podcast apps. We'd love for you to follow us on social media too. Impactful with an M _ messages on Instagram and Impactful Messages on LinkedIn.